Welcome to Lesson 15, Cowls and Shirring. Today we're going to learn to do some additional draping techniques where we're drawing folded fabric that is kind of scrunched together and or softly folded. What we're looking at right here is a cowl neckline, and that's the first thing that we're going to learn how to draw. What is a cowl neckline? Well, basically, it's taking where you take a piece of fabric, it's usually cut on the bias, so it's real stretchy, and it drapes very softly like this. Here you can see a cowl neckline on a little tank top. Now, sometimes a cowl kind of builds up at the shoulders, and sometimes it lays very, very flat. So we'll talk about how we're going to make that appear in several different ways. Now, places that you'll see cowls, here's a kind of unusual use of a cowl where they've draped it on the upper part of a sleeve. This is probably the ultimate unflattering place to put a cowl, right there at the hips, because cowls do utilize bunched up fabric, and it's going to make your hips look a little bit big. Really nice place for a cowl is on a neckline, like you can see here. And as you can see on the bottom here, cowls come in all shapes and sizes. They can be very, very deep, like you see here. They can be much shorter on the neckline. But no matter what, one of the things we'll see is these lines crisscross back and forth and form the illusion, when we're drawing it, of these very, very soft folds. So let's talk about how we are going to draw that. Let's draw a cowl neckline on a croquis. I've given you two croquis in this lesson, one for drawing flats and one for drawing illustrations. And when we draw our cowl neckline, what we have to decide is how far down it's going to go. So I'll make my cowl neckline about even with the neckline that's on the croquis here. And what I need to locate is whether it's going to bunch up on the shoulders or it's not. And I think I will make it so that it does bunch up on the shoulders a little bit. So I'm going to come like this. I'm going to put some little lumps on the shoulders, as we're seeing here. And now what I need to do is I need to bring, right where that fold is, I'm going to bring it around. Now my first pass is going to be very smooth like this. My second pass was going to keep this from looking like a strange looking necklace. Can you see I'm kind of passing these lines back and forth? And that is what gives the illusion of the fabric being folded. The lines go like this and they kind of pass each other. Now here I'll just draw in my shoulders. I'll just draw a little sleeveless top here like this. And I now have my cowl neckline. Very easy to draw. Now what's going to happen in the back here is, because it's a flat, I do need to show a back on it like this. And of course I'm going to ink it just like always, and that will be my finished flat for my cowl. You can put a cowl anywhere you like on any garment that you like. Now let's talk about our final technique, which is drawing shirring. And shirring is where you take and you bunch up fabric. Now what makes it shirring is that you have to have two lines of stitching, and it's gathered in between the two lines of stitching. The difference between shirring and a ruffle just has one row of gathering and it's loose on the other end. Shirring is anchored on both sides. And when we draw shirring, we want that fabric to look like it's really bunched up, because otherwise it's going to look not like shirring. So let's talk about how we can do that. When we're I'll just go ahead and draw it right here using the same croquis, and I'll draw it right next to my cowl. You can see it. And if I'm going to draw a little bodice, then what I'm going to do is I need to first, I'll make this a little strapless bodice. I'll put it 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to make it so it, now on my sides I want it to be wiggly like this. I'm just going to do a little suck, and then I need to put in just a little bit of a wiggly seam line right in here and right in here like this. And I'm going to get that croquis out of there so you can see what I'm doing. And now this is gathered and it's puffing out the fabric. It's also going to puff out the fabric right here. So that still doesn't look like gathered fabric. So what I need to do, I've drawn these lines specifically squiggly for a reason. Where it comes in like this, that's where I'm going to have a little bit of a gather. Now some of my gathers are going to go farther across, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to bring in these gathers. Can you see how I'm kind of crossing them in the middle? Some of them are going to come all the way across. Some of them are only going to come part way. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Kind of like the cowl, and then I'm drawing them kind of random. But can you see how now it's looking like gathered fabric? Let's do this real quickly. There we go. And that would be a little sheared bodice. And if I wanted to like make a little prom dress, which is kind of what I'm drawing here, I guess, what I would do is I would take and I would put a skirt on it down here like this. I would do my smiles and my frowns, get my hemline, and if I had some gathers coming from the top here, it would look like this. And that would be like a little just a little dressy dress. And so this is shirring, and this is a cowl. So let's talk about what you're actually going to turn in. What you're going to turn in is, if you look on page 03 right here, or 03, it'll tell you that you're going to turn in some cowls, you're going to turn in some shirring, and you're going to turn in a designer choice illustration. So let's take a look at what's actually going to go on the page. So first of all, I want you to trace a cowl. And I want you to trace a cowl using any of the cowl handouts that I gave you, and that'll give you the kind of the practice of getting the feel of how a cowl is drawn. Then I want you to take and I want you to put a cowl on a flat. And I want you to translate what you learned by tracing it and put it on a flat. And remember, flats don't show the croquis, illustrations do. Then I want you to take and trace some shirring. Again, get those little squiggly lines, get that irregular contour, and make it look like shirring. And then you are going to take that shirring and I want you to put it on a flat anywhere that you like. You can put it on a skirt, you can put it on a blouse, you can put it on a sleeve, anywhere that you'd like to put the shirring. And this particular one, it's right here. So now the last thing you're going to do is you're going to do your designer choice illustration, and I actually want you to draw two illustrations. Right here I'm just showing you one. And I've got one garment that shows shirring and one garment that shows a cowl. If you want to add some of your newly perfected ruffles, you can, that you learned in the last lesson. And of course, when it's an illustration, it needs to show the croquis, arms, legs, head, feet. And I also would like to see your original picture, your inspiration picture, so that I can see if it's been drawn correctly. So if we look at your grading sheet right here, zoom in a little bit. This is what you need to include. The cowl is going to have a traced cowl and a cowl on a flat. Then you're going to have a traced shirring, and then you're going to draw your shirring on a flat for 10 points. Then I want an illustration that has a cowl, and I want an illustration that has shirring. And that's all you need to do for this lesson. Have fun.